Today, I'd like to share with you my takeaways from this year's Service Academy interviews. I had the pleasure of interviewing 12 candidates for my U.S. senators. The 12 candidates applied to all four service academies that required a congressional nomination: the Merchant Marine Academy, the Naval Academy, West Point, and the Air Force Academy. As you know, Coast Guard Academy does not require a congressional interview, so we did not obviously interview anybody from the Coast Guard Academy. Out of the 12 people, there were several really excellent candidates, which I hope receive nominations and receive appointments to their chosen academies. But as I like to do after each year of interviews, I'd like to make a little review of what the common mistakes are that these candidates made. And I wrote down a few of them, so let me get my book out here. Number one, this is always a big one. Number one, people who interview anybody for a job or anything like to ask the question to set the interview up: please tell me a little bit about yourself. Most of the candidates, 10 out of the 12 candidates, could not answer the question, please tell me a little bit about yourself. This is very simple. You should have a very short little 1-minute explanation of who you are, where you go to school, and what you want to do. Right then and there, I think that's just a very big shortfall. I mean, if you're interviewing for a job in a grocery store, you're interviewing for a job on Wall Street, you're interviewing for a job to go to medical school, or you're just interviewing for a job to be a lifeguard, people are going to ask you that very simple question: please tell me a little bit about yourself. A lot of the candidates just couldn't start the conversation with that. And one of them even had the nerve to say, well, what would you like to know? I'm here, which I thought was kind of interesting, but we went on from there. The second one is that 10 out of 12 candidates couldn't clearly tell us what their service commitment, service obligation was. I always find this surprising. If you're in high school, you're 18 years old or so, and you're about to venture to a military school for 4 years and then have another 5 years, so a total of 9 years in the service, you don't know what those next 9 years of your life are going to look like and how many years you have to serve. I always find that interesting, and it's always a big red flag that people have not done their research. It's on my other videos. You have to know what your service obligation is. It's just a basic thing that you have to know. And if you don't know it, usually conversations go down from here. So it's 10 out of 12 people didn't know what their service obligation was. That's a big percentage for me. Number 3, most of them did not apply to ROTC. Why would you not apply to ROTC? If you want to be an officer in the United States military, you apply to ROTC. It shows us that you are interested in serving your country, you are interested in becoming an officer, and if you do not get into a service academy, that there's a path for you to serve your country. Now, applying to ROTC doesn't mean that if you don't get into a service academy that you have to go into ROTC, but it's a key thing that the interviewers look for. One student said that she did not apply to ROTC, and when asked why, she said, I want to attend the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and my goal is to sail on commercial ships after graduation on my license and to sail around the world for my commitment of a minimum of 5 years. So number 1, she knew what the service obligation was. Number 2, she knew what the school was about. And number 3, she knew why she didn't have to apply to ROTC to become a merchant mariner. Obviously, she was one of the top 2 that we interviewed. So that was a very, very good thing for her to do, and she did some really good research. So kudos to her. Number 4, these interviews were held via Zoom, which is really an easier thing for the candidates. If you're in your own office or in your dining room, or your kitchen, or your room at home, and you're Zooming in, If the surroundings are comfortable, you're home, you don't have to travel, you don't have to be stressed out. Um, what I found though in this year specifically, and it's not only with the Service Academy interviews, it's students that I talk to over Zoom calls. Um, they are not clear communicators. They have a very hard time starting a conversation and continuing a conversation. Um, I don't fault them specifically for that because I call them the Zoom slash texting generation. They also are the COVID generation. Um, but when you're having an interview where you're applying to go to a service academy, you should not just give one word answers or very short answers. You should expound upon those answers. And I would say it's a red flag, but it really isn't. It's something that candidates have to work on. So if you're a part of the Zoom generation, if you are, no, we're gonna let this tractor trailer truck go on by. If you're part of the COVID generation that began on Zoom and you don't really have the opportunity to speak a lot to others while in class, or you just like you were separated from your classmates, I understand. But this is a skill that you have to practice, and it's especially very important when you have an interview for an academy selection, that you're able to have a conversation and able to give a detailed answer and be prepared for follow-up questions. That's just a point there. It's not a red flag, but it's just something that we just noticed, and this year was pretty bad. So let me just wrap this up. There's the three things are, you know, be able to tell us about yourself. Have a little short little pitch, a minute or so, where you go to school, what you do, why you want to go to an academy, and what you want to do after graduation. Just a very short one. It just breaks the ice, and it's easy for us to start the interview. Know what the service commitment / obligation is. That is a hot button for me. I'm sorry. Everybody has their own little pet peeve. That's a big one for me. If you don't know that, then you didn't do your research. And lastly, apply to ROTC. That's actually on many evaluation sheets for many different congressmen and senators. Applying to ROTC is a checkbox. It's either a yes or no. And that gives a red flag if you're not doing that. So I'm going to wrap this up. For those of you who interviewed this year, congratulations. I hope you get what you want. I hope you did a good job. And I hope that my videos helped you. For those that watch this in the future, good luck to you. Watch the rest of my videos. You get some good pointers there, and you'll be really prepared for your Service Academy interview. So good luck, and have a good one. Bye now.